What's up guys, it's Zeno and welcome back to another episode of Noob's Journey. If you remember, last time we talked about mindsets, fixed and growth mindsets, and how they can affect your pathway to excellence in Destiny, in the Crucible specifically. That said, this episode is going to be about being consistent in the Crucible. Now, if you don't know what the word consistency means, it's basically just being kind of the same and reliable in any sort of given thing. It means you basically don't change. You can be good or bad, but you can still be consistent. So we're going to talk a little bit more about the different kinds of consistency that are applicable to Destiny and some of the ways that you can stay consistent throughout your gameplay. Now, the first kind of consistency I want to talk about in this episode is basically just loadout consistency. This means the weapons you're using, and it's not so much having the same weapons constantly on or using the same weapons like non-stop, but to me it means you have a solid base of weapons that you can fall back onto if the current gun that you're interested in or using is just not working out for you. So why is it important to even build up this base of skill on, one weapon that is subject to change with every patch that comes your way? Well, the answer is simple. By using one weapon consistently or a set of weapons consistently, you will therefore practice with those weapons. You'll become very accustomed to a play style with those specific weapons, and you'll always have something that if you're in a tight spot or if you're in a sweaty round against some really top-tier players in Trials of Osiris, you can fall back onto, and you will know that you can consistently perform with those weapons. It's a basic principle of learning pretty much anything to start from something that you know and you are very, very comfortable with and kind of branch out into more specialized things later on once you become very, very proficient at doing just the basics. So essentially what you're doing is mastering the psychological gameplay of Destiny before you go out into the game. Like, you can master sniping, but it's one thing to master the 1,000-yard stare, and it's another thing to master Wayloran's March. They're two entirely different weapons, they're apples and oranges, and you have to learn each of them individually, which is why this consistency is so important. You have to practice with one thing so that you can become good at other things that are similar but slightly tweaked. But I know a lot of players who don't really understand this concept. In fact, I think it's been a little bit detrimental to their play styles as far as they go, because they're always switching up their weapons, they're always trying to adapt to a new play style, but they never just single in on one and decide to get really good with that, understand the way that the game flows when you use a certain archetype of weapon, and then be really good at it. It's a lot like learning to drive. You get behind the wheel the first time, and from then on till you get your license, you're usually driving the same car. Now, after you get your license, your parents are like, hey, we'll buy you a car. And, well, let's just say you're really rich and they want to buy you a Ferrari. A Ferrari's a lot different than the Volkswagen Beetle that you learn to drive in. But driving itself, like the act of going out on the road, turning at all the right places, it's all the same. It's just a different car. And so it is with Destiny. You have to learn the rules of the game before you can go take a joyride with weird, obscure guns that are anti-meta. It's as simple as that. So for a while at least, it means you need to pick a primary weapon that you're comfortable with and a special weapon that you're comfortable with, even if it's boring, and just use those non-stop. Make sure they're good guns too, otherwise this will be really difficult. But use them non-stop, get really good with them, and then once you're really good with those, you can afford to change it up a little bit from time to time and learn a new gun, so to speak. Now, I would categorize one other type of consistency in Destiny, and that would be shot consistency, or basically just accuracy. So this accuracy is the amount of shots you hit versus the amount of shots you don't hit. And there are several big factors that can contribute to how good that ratio looks. I would say that the major one is sensitivity. I've noticed that when I'm sniping especially, and generally across the board, having a lower sensitivity, lower on the scale of sensitivity, or at least playing at a sensitivity that you're comfortable with, will allow you to, be more comfortable taking some shots that might not work if you weren't at that perfect centered sensitivity that you like to play at. Other factors are usually smaller mindset-based things like salt and tilt, and whether you're winning or losing at the point in time that you're trying to sample your accuracy at, but they're small, and the main thing is just your sensitivity, I've found, anyway. So overall, I think that if you're very consistent with your loadout, and you can, increase your accuracy that way, but if you're generally consistent with your loadout and you try to kind of do some of the things I've outlined here, you will definitely see some changes in your playstyle. I know I did when I did this, so I highly, highly recommend actually, that you guys select a few weapons if you haven't already and really just train with those and perfect your playstyle before you perfect a weapon or have fun with other weapons. It pays off, even though it's not that fun, but it definitely pays off in the long run. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode of Noob's Journey. We'll be back for another one, hopefully sometime next week, and I'll see you guys next time. Xeno out.